Welcome to the 34th episode of my self-important Magic the Gathering show. Last week, I quote-unquote upgraded, more like side-graded, probably downgraded the 4 Final Fantasy precons because I felt like doing that. As of the recording of this episode, because I'm still doing it weeks and weeks ahead of time, because I feel like it, Edge of Eternities is still several days out. So I still feel like talking about Final Fantasy, because as if you can see, just from the screen right here, there are a lot of commanders that I wanted to build decks for. At least 2 of them, 3 of them? I'd have to go look, but I know 2 of them I'm saving for when I start doing typal stuff. Because there's Gyot, the dwarf guy, and then there's Choco, the bird one. And I think there's a vehicle one, but I just don't remember who that was. And while vehicle isn't a typal, I do have a whole folder for vehicles that I may or may not have shown on screen. So we're just going to do these one at a time. Scry Me a River 2. You might remember that. Oops, no, grab over here. Throw that into the parent folder just to show that I did it. This one, a lot of these I fully built, so we're just going to be going through them. We won't be going through all of these, but the next couple of weeks we're going to finish this off. So, Scry Me a River 2, you might remember from Mono Blue Week, was the first Scry Me a River where we had the 2 Mono Blue partner commanders. One that said, when you attack with creatures with flying, you get to scry, and the other one that says if you scry, you draw instead. So this is Scry Me a River 2, because we have Matoya, the Archon Elder, the Final Fantasy XIV version of a Final Fantasy I character, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Matoya's Cave, where you trade her crystal, that's her seeing eye, and she gives you a key so you can get some treasures. So we have 2 and a blue for a 1/4 human warlock. Whenever you would scry or surveil, you draw a card. Neat. You draw after you scry or surveil. Thank you, Italics test. Don't you know it's rude to enter without knocking? The youth of today. Okay, so we have our lands. We're just going to go in order of how we would if we were building it from scratch. So we have our 30 excuse me, 30 islands, which I forgot to personalize. So we'll do that. That'll eat some time. So so it's these 3, right? Yep. Okay. So, whoops. Add his new card. Add his new card. Switch to edition. Ding. Okay. Then we have Castle Vantress, who we can pay total of 5 mana, because this is a land itself, to scry 2 and then draw a card. Because we're scrying once. Oh, that does make that one creature where you scry once, then scry 1, scry 2, then scry 3 very interesting. Because you scry, draw, scry, draw, scry, draw. That's not in this deck, but it probably should have been. But I left it out because it was only it only scried the one time, and we were not putting blink effects. But let's trade our printing for that one. Close. Then we have the Isolated Watchtower. that taps for colorless, or we can pay a total of 3 mana, because once again, this is mana, to scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. If it's basic land, you put it into the battlefield tap, so it's a potential piece of ramp. But it's catch-up ramp, because your an opponent needs to have two or more lands than you. But it's 3 mana to scry 1 and draw a card, if nothing else. Like, it's not... Oh, that is not a purchasable card, apparently. So, just you. Sometimes it is a purchasable card with that little thing on it. Then we have the Lotus Field, because why not? Something's making a sound, and I don't know what it is. But anyway, man, yeah. I think I've said this before, but Edge of Eternity's coming out. Its land reprint bonus sheet is really sweet. But we're going to choose this $21 foil. Then we have Reliquary Tower, because we plan on drawing a lot of cards, so it's a decent idea. We'll use this classic border. Then we have Rivendell. It comes into play tapped unless we control a legendary creature. And then 3 total mana to scry 2. And then, of course, with our commander, draw a card, which we can only do this if we control a legendary creature anyway, so that's fine. We'll do that, this border that I'm a fan of. I think there's only been a couple of times where I don't use this border. Then we have this really old card. I love it when I get to put an old card in a deck. When Soldevi Excavations comes into play, sacrifice an untapped island, so that part stinks. But it doesn't come into play tapped itself, so that's at least good. And then you can tap it for blue and a colorless. And then this is the cheapest version of itself. That's why it's good. 2 total mana, because of course land. Well, I guess 3 mana because you're sacrificing this, but so to scry 1. And there's no need to look, because I don't think this was reprinted online. And that was it. Because I believe that's Magic the Gathering Online. And then good old Terrain Generator, since we're drawing a lot of cards. We can pay 3 total mana, because once again it's a land, to just put a basic land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. And yeah, look, it's also in Edge of Eternities, this set, and we're going to use this classic one from Nemesis, which is from around the time I quit playing. Let's see, then we'll do our ramp section, which I definitely gotta switch. Pry from my cold dead hands. She is from 14, so we use the 14. You're the 14, right? Yep. Arcane Signet from 14. The Waifu Code Steelheart. Mindstone. Sapphire Medallion, because we're in mono blue. Dang, that's really nice. Sky Diamond. I like using these versions. Sword of the Animus, because we have 30 basics in the deck. And, oh, Aerith. The Iron Crag. Iron Crag, I guess, because it's an E. And then our Thought Vessel. And then a treasure map, even though, like, we're only ever going to have 3 treasures, because I don't think anything else in the deck will be making treasures. It's 1 mana, tap this to scry 1, draw 1 3 times. Bitterthorn. It's basically sort of the Animist with Living Weapon. And then Solemn Simulacrum, which of course we have that. Because again, we have 30 basics, so. And then our removal section. You've probably seen a lot of these cards, but we're going to go over them again because it's been a while since we've done Mono Blue. So, Chain of Vapor. Return target permanent to its owner's hand, then that permanent's controller may sacrifice a land. If that player does, they copy the spell. Sweet. Fading Hope. Let's see. We'll save 4 cents. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If it was mana value 3 or less, scry 1. Which also means we get to draw a card. Into the Flood Maw. Gift a tapped fish. Return target creature to its an opponent controls of their hand, but if the gift was promised, you get any non-land permanent. I don't think this was ever... Nope, it hasn't been reprinted yet. Pongify. You give them a 3/3 ape instead of whatever creature they have. Rapid hybridization. Nope, actually I don't really like that picture. I don't like that picture. It's the same thing as Pongify, but they get a lizard. Stern Missile. Creature or enchantment to owner's hand. Nice. Was only ever printed once in Theros Beyond Death, interestingly enough. String of Disappearances. Return target creature to its owner's hand, and that creature may pay double blue to copy this spell. Only ever printed in Modern Horizons 1. Classic Unsummon. Let's see. Let's go all the way back. Oh, that's the unlimited version. Here's the revised version. No, that's the 4th ed version. There's revised. Let's pick up revised. Yeah, are we going to pick up revised? Is there any other fun versions? There's the 30th anniversary version, which I'm not a fan of. So yeah, let's pick up revised just for our own amusement. The Vapor Snag. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Its controller loses a life. That's pretty neat. That extra, just that bonus. Oh, that's new for Exia, NPH. Reality Shift, exile a creature, they manifest. I like this Reality Shift from Commander Masters, I guess. Then we go to Elvish Mariner. We're in a different section. Oh, we're in the card rust. No, let's go. Which section does that put us in? Oh no, Elvish Mariner is a piece of removal. Look at that. When Elvish Mariner attacks, you scry 1 and then draw a card with our commander. Whenever you scry, this is important, tap up to X target non-land permanents, where X is the number of cards looked at while scrying. That's pretty sweet. So that turns our scrying into tapping creatures that we don't want to block. Classic Imprisoned on the Moon. We'll use that version. Enchant a creature, land, or planeswalker, and they just become a non-typed waste because they only tap for colorless and lose all of their other abilities. Aetherize to get rid of things attacking you. Aether Spouts. One more for an even more annoying getting rid of things that are attacking you. Mischievous Mystic. What is this under? That is under... Oh, that's going over 2 tokens. So we'll do that. We'll do that last. Because those are the first 3 things we normally put in a deck. So let's look at everything else. Psychosis Crawlers, power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. When you draw a card, each opponent loses a life. I think this is the only card of its type in this whole deck. Ooh. You know, I love these classic artifact borders. Now we'll look at our 22 card draw spells. No maximum hand size is important. We'll keep the Bloombower version. Endless Atlas, draw a card, but only if you control 3 or more lands of the same type. Well, we have 30 lands of a single type in this deck. Ugh. Hair is sneaking into my mouth. Here's a card I normally wouldn't put in decks because I don't like milling myself. But this is Surveil 1 on our upkeep. So we Surveil, then draw. And then it can turn into this. That doesn't matter. I think just draw an additional card on each of our turns is fine. Because it's a May transform. Go to all printings. We'll do Heart of the Explorer from that secret lair. A classic sigilled starfish. It's just an 0-3 for 2 that taps and lets you scry one. We'll just choose the oldest version because that's the kind of thing I like to do. So, Sunset Pyramid enters the battlefield with 3 brick counters on it. Remove a brick counter from Sunset Pyramid to draw a card, pays 2. And then once you've run out of those, you can scry one and with your commander draw a card. So that's really good in this deck. The Reality Chip, it lets you look at the top card of your library at any time and cast those things. So you can, you can cast those things if this is equipped to a creature. But that allows you to affect the top card of your library. So when you scry, you can more effectively scry if you already know what's up there. Let's animate up our Reality Chip. No maximum hand size. That is the specific reason why this is in the deck. But if we have 13 cards in our hand, we'll win the game. Also kind of counts as removal bait, doesn't it? We'll use this. I was tempted to use this version, but it's so much more expensive that normally that doesn't bother me, but like I just like this weirdo. Elrond. Whenever Elrond, Lord of Rivendell, or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. And then if it's the second time this ability is resolved this turn, the ring tempts you. Ding. Geist of the Archives, Defender, and then you get to scry 1 at the beginning of your turns. So a little bit more expensive than the Sigil Starfish, but you don't have to tap it. Mind Whisker. At the beginning of your upkeep, Surveil 1, and then as long as 7 more cards are in your graveyard, creatures your opponent control get -1/-0, so that's a little bonus. I imagine it's the only one of itself because it's from Bloombower. Moonfolk Puzzle Master. Whenever it becomes tapped, you scry 1, and it's a flying 1/4. So when you attack with it, because I don't think like there's vehicles or things within list or other reasons to tap this creature in here, but it's a flying 1/4. That by itself is decent. And it was reprinted very soon after its initial printing. It is a good card, though. Hermes, Overseer of Elpis from the Final Fantasy XIV Commander deck. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get a bird. With a 1/1 bird with flying and vigilance. And then whenever you attack with 1 or more birds, scry 2. And we do have a fair number of non-creature spells in this deck, so there we go with that. And then we'll just do that. Sphinx of Foresight. You may reveal the top card. You may reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, you scry 3 at the beginning of your first end step, which doesn't super matter, but that's neat. And then it's a flying 4/4 for 4 that you scry on your upkeeps. And remember, with our commander, this is all extra draw steps. Then we have another win the game card because it amuses me. I'm just going to grab this really quick. Your maximum hand size is 20. Whenever you attack with 2 more creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on 20-toed toad and draw a card. Whenever 20-toed toad attacks, you win the game if there are 20 or more counters on it and you have 20 more or more cards in hand. That's probably never going to happen, but he gets to draw us more cards and he becomes bigger. That's fine. And also kind of removal bait. We love removal bait. Then we have the Body of Knowledge, which got printed a few times, so we are going to use that version. Body of Knowledge's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size, and when it's dealt damage, you draw that many cards. So not everything in here is about scrying or surveilling. It's like, well, duh, we're about drawing cards. So the Defiler of Dreams, when you cast blue permanents, you can pay 2 life instead of one of the blue pips. But also, whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card. We have a decent number of blue permanents, so that's why this is in here. We'll do this one. Imrith of Desert Doom. This is just a good dragon. Flying. Ward 4 as long as it's untapped, so it's a solid air blocker. And then if it deals combat damage to a player, if we somehow have fewer than 3 cards in hand, we draw cards. If somehow everything's going wrong, we'll at least have 3 cards in hand for our second main, if this thing hits. Prognostic Sphinx. Discard a card, it gains hexproof until end turn, tap it, and if it attacks, you scry 3. That's always nice. Let's see which version we want. Let's just go with the original. This old man with the silly beard. Serum Sovereign. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, they get an oil counter, and like I said, we have a decent number of non-creature spells. And probably still will by the time where this thing comes out. And then draw a card, scry 2, and with our commander we draw a second card. Because it Serum Visions, if you remember that card. Go here. And then our commander from Scry Me a River 1. Oh. There we go. And then we'll use that version. So if you scry a number of cards, though, that many instead. We don't have the other one in here because that cared about flying creatures, and we're not super into flying. Spined Megalodon, it has hexproof, and when it attacks, you scry 1, and it's a 5/7. It has not been printed that many times. It's on the list apparently. Ancient Silver Dragon, flying 8/8 for 8. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20, draw that many cards, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. We're using the book version just because it's $20 cheaper. Thassa, God of the Sea, not the Thassa you were expecting probably. Indestructible, you have to have Devotion of Blue to 5 for it to beat a creature. And then it scries on your upkeep, and then you can make a creature unblockable. And we'll do this version because I really like that version. Archetype of Imagination. Creatures you control have flying. Creatures your opponents control lose flying and can't have or gain flying. This costs 6. So when I said that this deck wasn't about flying, I meant it. Because this is, I think we're in finisher territory now. Nope, we're in evasions. And then that's land. Oh yeah, those two are... oh, and then over here in the Maybe board really quick, we have the Mayor of Galadriel. Because I didn't know how many legendary creatures I'd have in the deck. Because it costs 2 to bring out, and then 5 to scry 1, draw a card. Which is like 4 And then we do have legendary creatures, but just not that many. So after evasion goes land, so mill. Whenever you cast a creature spell, surveil 1. We're just going to put that... Well, first we're going to see if it has another version I want to put in. And then we're going to go from mill to draw, because that's kind of what I've been doing with those cards. And then I think we have... Oh, no, we have one tutor. The Tribute Mage, which we are going to use this one and unfoil it. When Tribute Mage enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with mana value 2, reveal that card, and put it to your hand, then shuffle. Basically, that's searching for most of our ramp. Or Swiftfoot Boots or Lightning Greaves from the protection section, which we're going to do this really quick because, yep, nope, those haven't been Final Fantasy-ified. Tifa's Shoes. Those things. Then the Mithril Code, don't be surprised by that. Propaganda, which has a Final Fantasy version. And Stormtide Leviathan. All lands are islands. In addition, there are other tides. Creatures without flying or island walk can't attack. Basically, oh, and it costs 8. So basically that, the Stormtide Leviathan and the Archetype of Imagination are the two things that you kind of want to have in at the same time. And then I think the last section of this deck is tokens. Yep, removal to... No, recursion, really quick. Because the Sword of Once and Future... Because protection from blue and from black, which is sort of relevant. Whenever a crypt creature deals combat damage to a player, you surveil 2. That's why it's in the deck. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. And then it exiles the spell, so you can't do that again. And remember, our instants and sorceries are mostly removal spells with mana value 2 or less. So now we go to our tokens. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you get a 1/1 blue fairy with flying. Not the strongest card in the deck, but whenever you draw a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on Chasm Skulker, and when it dies, you get X 1/1 squids with Island Walk, where the X was the number of counters on this. Oh, there was one in Final Fantasy. Then we have Min, Wily Illusionist. Whenever you draw your second card, you get an illusion that gets 1 stronger for each other illusion. And when they die, you can cast a permanent spell without paying its mana. Oh, you don't even cast, you just put it into play. A permanent with mana value less than or equal to the power. Neat. And there we go. And then last card. Nope, that was the last card. Yep. Oh, wow, that was the last card in this deck. Okay, I'm going to see if I mess up my... Nope, okay, cool. Because I moved that to a different window. So now we go to this deck. Yep, oh wow, that took a half hour. Nice. So this is Will We Win? Get rid of you. Starring... I can tell that I already went through all of these cards to put in cool looking versions because we want it to be pretty for the recording. And okay, so we'll look at our commander first. So it's Zenos Ye Galvus, who has My First Friend. When Zenos Ye Galvus enters, choose a creature an opponent controls. Until end of turn, creatures other than Zenos here and that creature get -2/-2 until end of turn. It doesn't say that there, but it'll say that on... Oh no, that's just a permanent -2/-2. That's wild. Oh, that is more interesting than I thought it was. When the chosen creature leaves the battlefield, we transform our boy here into this 8/8 flying dragon named Shinryu. And then when we transform into this, we choose an opponent. When the chosen player loses the game, we win the game. Wow, that's not until end of turn. I totally misread that. And then we have our 38 lands, which I went in a very obvious direction. We have our 30 swamps. Then we have the Dread Marshes that turn all of our that turns all lands into swamps because it's really Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Then we have Nykthos that can add mana equal to our devotion. Myriad Landscape to grab swamps out of our deck, basics of course. Cabal Coffers adds black for each swamp we control. Dracula's Tomb, sacrifice a creature to add double black. I don't remember why I wanted that. I think it's because oh, there's stuff in here. Anyway, Castle Lochthwain, if we don't have a whole lot of cards in hand, we can pay 4 total because, you know, tapping this to draw a card and then lose a life per card in our hand. Cabal Strongholds only adds for basic swamps, so it's not as good as the other ones, but I put it in the deck anyway. And then Barrow Downs for Bojuka Bug, because sometimes you just need to exile someone's graveyard. Let's go to our ramp section, which is actually mildly more interesting, but you'll see a lot of things that you've seen before. We have the XPad map, which will probably be used to find one of our non-basics, whichever one we think we need at any given time. We don't use World Map because it's one more expensive, unless I'm wrong and it's in here and I just didn't see it. Nope, I don't see it. So we have our Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Charcoal Diamond this time because it's black. Cold Steel Heart, of course, it's the waifu version. We put in Felwar Stone into this one. It doesn't tap for a mana that we need, but it's another piece of ramp that honestly we probably don't need anymore. But I couldn't tell you what I'd want to put in this deck instead. The Jet Medallion because we're mono black. Mind Stone, Iron Crag, Thought Vessel, Bantu's Monument because it drains our opponents when we cast creature spells. Lucas Stadium, which is really Strixhaven Stadium, which this is the one where I will do this so we can read it. Yeah, you tap it for colorless and put a point counter on this artifact. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you remove a point counter from this artifact. Whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to an opponent, we put a point counter on this artifact. Then if it has 10 or more point counters, remove them all and that player loses the game. So that's why it's in the deck, because we want to try to score points. And then we have the Cryptghast, which allows swamps to tap for additional mana. I don't know where all of this mana is going. I don't think anywhere in this deck has a plan for that mana. I really don't. No, there are no mana sinks. Solemn Signet Lacrum grabs we'll grab a basic swamp. Darkness Crystal allows us to steal stuff out that's died. The Revenant taps. Oh, here's our mana sink, making this Revenant, which doesn't even fly or anything, +1/+1 bigger. And whenever you tap a swamp, you get additional mana. And then Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth, in their Final Fantasy XIV cosplay, made it into this because you can pay life for any amount of black pips instead of just one, so he's Super Defiler. And when he casts a black spell, he gets bigger and he has lifelink. And then we go down to our honestly piddly removal section. We have Cast Down, which gets rid of non-legendary creatures. Go for the Throat, which goes for non-artifact creatures. Heartless Act, which goes for creatures that don't have counters on them. Infernal Grasp, that gets any creature, but it costs you 2 life. Phyrexian Obliterator, which makes your opponent sacrifice stuff if they deal damage to it. Maha, its Feathers Knight, gives all of your opponent's creatures 1 toughness. So that's cool with our commander, especially since with that permanent -2/-2, this thing only becomes a 4/3, so it can survive that. Argentum Armor destroys the thing when you attack. Masker Worm does the -2/-2, but only till end of turn. Vraska Scheming Gorgon can buff our creatures, destroy a creature, or can make opponents lose the game if we ever get to the -10. Meteor Golem destroys a creature. Ultimate Weapon Argentum Armor destroys a permanent on attack. Ultimate Weapon is 1 more and better in every way than Argentum Armor. That's funny. Because this gives +6/+6, attack, destroy permanent, equip 6, cost 6 to bring out. Ultimate Weapon costs 7 to equip, bring out, gives +7/+7. Oh, but it only destroys creatures. That's interesting. So it is slightly worse. Cityscape Leveler destroys a thing on cast and attack, but gives them a power stone token, non-land permanents. Bahamut can destroy up to 2 non-land permanents, then you get to draw 2 cards, and then it really messes up your opponent and just kind of makes any other game plan you had pointless. But man, is he cool. Let's see, let's go to tokens really quick. Jadar he himself cannot be played when our commander is out, and that's funny. And he also makes creatures that will instantly die if our commander is out. So he's kind of pointless in the deck, but that's fine. Then we have our protection section, which we have the commander's plate, so that gives it protection from everything but black. Then our lightning greaves. We did not put... Nope, there they are. There's the Swiftfoot Boots. So lightning greaves, Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, which gives legendary creatures hexproof in addition to the +2/+2. Darksteel Plate, Mithril Coat, Hammer of Nizan, which gives indestructible, but also lets you insta-equip other equipment when they come into play. And then Cauldron Complete, which is gives First Strike, Trample, Indestructible, Haste, and exiles creatures it deals damage to. And +5/+5. And it's a living weapon, so you automatically have a 6/6. Let's see. We don't have to scroll down because we already did all of that. Then we have this silly pinger, Triskaidekaphobia. We had Triskaidekaphile, now we have Triskaidekaphobia. This is another thing that just makes people lose games. If any of your upkeep choose 1, everybody loses a life. But first, so you can either have the people with 13 life lose the game and each player gains a life, or have everyone with 13 life lose the game and everyone loses a life. So tricky to use. Then we'll do this life gain section because there's only 2 things. Totek Spear, which is really the Shadow Spear, and that's the +1/+1 trample lifelink, and then you can remove hexproof and indestructible from stuff. And then Shieldred the Apocalypse. You gain a life when you draw a card, and everyone else loses 2 life. Oh yeah, you gain 2 life when you draw a card. They lose 2 life when you draw a card. When they draw a card, I mean. And it has Death Touch, and it'll still exist with our commander on field. That's, wow, a much more important thing to mention now. Solemn instantly dies, but we want it to. Crypt Gas doesn't exist. We definitely want to cast him first and cast at least he'll be a 1/1. Wow. What about you? You start as a 4/4 at least. Like, I didn't see that wasn't until end of turn, so now I'm like reevaluating stuff. Yeah, a lot of these things, a lot of my creatures, incredibly bad. Sengir the Dark Baron. Whenever another creature dies, this thing gets 2 +1/+1 counters. Which is fine for this, because then at least it'll be bigger. Although, you know, this costs 1 more, so you're more likely to cast this first. So this deck became a lot more interesting when I realized that I've made some mistakes that I'm not going to change. Then whenever another player loses the game, you gain whatever life they had left at the beginning of that turn. Bloodletter of Aklizots. It says drain, but this isn't a drain card because you don't gain life from it. But there's no real other place to put it. But if an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much instead. This isn't drain either, because there's no life gaining on our part. But exchange opponent's life total with Reaver Edition's toughness, so we can have this super defender. Oh no, it could be a -2/11. And then Gray Merchant just to drain everyone, because who needs to be original? And it'll still be a 0/2. Let's see how this next section... you know what, technically... What's funny is that this one, because it's life link, is technically drain if you had an opponent, but never mind. The only thing in here that's really drain is the Gray Merchant. So anyway, let's go to the draw section. Curse of Vengeance. Enchant player. Whenever enchanted player casts a spell, you put a spike counter on the Curse of Vengeance. Then, when enchanted creature loses the game, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of spike counters on Curse of Vengeance. So you don't put that on the person you choose for Zenos, but that's just a funny thing. Just in case someone else besides the person you targeted with Zenos goes out first. Ayara, First of Lockthwain. You drain an opponent whenever this creature or another black creature you control enters. And then you can sacrifice another black creature to draw a card. That's basically just a little thing for Jadar as long as Zenos isn't out. Black Market Connections makes creatures that don't matter, but we can draw a card or create a treasure token. That's usually the stuff that matters. Morbid Opportunist lets us draw 1 card a turn for stuff dying. Phyrexian Arena, once a turn, we draw a card and lose a life. Underworld Connections, once a turn, we pay a life to draw a card and also costs us a mana because we equip that to a land. Massacre Girl gives our creatures Wither, and then we draw cards if something dies and had 0 toughness, which goes with our commander since it gives things -2/-2. Twilight Prophet is just another fun piece of card draw, and also this is also drain. So at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, which this has Ascend, so it'll give it to us, and a City's Blessing, if you don't remember, is having at least 10 permanents in play, and those permanents do include your land. And I'm going to take a drink of water. So, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is that card's mana value. Fun. And then the last piece to draw, the Deck of Many Things. It costs 5 to bring out? Yep, 5 to bring out, and then we pay 2, roll a d20, and subtract the number of cards in your hand. If the roll is a 0 or less, you discard your hand. So you do want to have not very many cards in your hand when you do this. And then, so if you get if the result is a 1 or 9, you return a card at random from your graveyard to your hand. 10 to 19, you draw 2 cards. At 20, put a creature card from any graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And then if it dies, its owners lose the game. And again, that's why that's in here. We want to have unique, well, not, or at least mildly interesting ways to cause our opponents to lose the game, or things that happen when they lose the game if we haven't done the thing with Zenos. So over here in finishers, we have the Vorpal Sword, which for 8 mana can cause a player to lose a game if the creature equipped with this deals combat damage to them. Unstoppable Slasher. This is for Bloodletter of Aclazotz over there. It has Death Touch, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up, which means you just make someone lose the game if Bloodletter is out. Hold on, just gotta, once again, as usual, change how I'm sitting. What I like about this deck, since I'm moving myself, is that like our commander is neat and does stuff that is cool, but technically we don't need him, I guess. And then if Unstoppable Slasher dies, if it had no counters on it, which means you do not want to put +1/+1 counters on this thing for the record, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. So it takes a while. So, and then if they get rid of it again, that's when it stays gone. Primal Odin, its second lore counter can cause a player to lose the game if it does combat damage to it. Elbrus, the Binding Blade. Its front side is absolute garbage for its mana cost because it costs 7. Because it equips for 1 and gives the equipped creature +1/+0. So that's a big investment for just absolutely nothing on the front side. But when equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, unattach Elbrus, the Binding Blade, and transform it into this 13/13 that has flying, intimidate, and trample. It's funny that it says intimidate, not fear, even though it's a black creature, and it could have just said fear, and it would mean the exact same thing. Intimidate means it cannot be blocked except by black creatures, or in this case, creatures that share a color with it, because that's the intimidate wording, and artifact creatures. And if I haven't said trample yet, trample. And then when a player loses the game, we put 13 +1/+1 counters on this guy. Honestly, I think I'm going to have it go join Sengir the Dark Baron for, if no, and honestly, Curse of Vengeance. And then now I can name this When They Lose. When They Lose. And make that much more interesting. Oh, and honestly, I'm going to put this in a new category and call it The Dream. And then we're going to grab Unstoppable Slasher and put that down there as well. It's The Dream. And yeah, this is still not a drain card, but I still have no idea where to put it. But then we have Phage, the Untouchable. When it enters, if you do not cast it from your hand, you lose the game. So we gotta be careful that someone else doesn't blink it. But that's like, that's the danger. Then when Phage deals combat damage to a creature, that creature is instantly destroyed and it cannot be regenerated. So is that specifically Death Touch? No, I think if we go over here, yeah, it's stronger than Death Touch because you can regenerate Death Touch, I think. And then when Phage deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So, and I think that was the last thing. Yeah. Yep, when they lose down there at the bottom now. I like this deck, even with all the mistakes I made, especially though only a couple of things are adversely affected by my by me misreading my commander. So we go over here, we pull you down, and then if I'm not mistaken, yes, I am just moving my windows around really quick. There we go. So we go back here, check the time. Oh, that was even quicker. Oh, because I didn't need to change any of the. I didn't need to change any of the borders. So rough divide. That's an odd sounding name if you're not familiar with the commander. It's also okay. It's one of those things where the deck took out a card, and now I have to double check the other two decks to make sure they didn't do that either. Okay, both of those have 100 cards. So deck history, add removed cards. Architect does this every now. Oh, it took out this card on its own. Add back to deck. There we go. Okay, so oh, and this is another. You don't have an alternate version? P list. Yep. Okay. I'm surprised I didn't take that out of the deck. Oh no, I guess I can see why I didn't. Okay, so for our land we have. Oh, I don't need that in this deck. Okay, I need to put something in the deck now. I need to grab a new land. So by popularity, we'll just okay, we already have that one in. So we'll just put in the Caves of Koilos. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, we have our lands. The only things to really of note are Minas Tirith, which we draw a card if we attack with 2 or more creatures, which is funny after we get to our commander. Misfail Plains, which lets us put stuff on the bottom of our library from our graveyard as long as we have 2 or more white permanents. And then yep, nothing else is out of the ordinary for an Orzhov deck. So let's go. So Squall, Seed Mercenary. 2 white black for a 3/4 Human Knight Mercenary. I really would have liked to have done more with Mercenary, but like there's not really a whole lot in white, or well no, I guess white and black are 2 of the 3 Mercenary colors. There just wasn't anything I felt like doing with it, I guess. And that has the ability, Rough Divide, that I named the deck after because I couldn't think of anything else. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, so we can either draw a card with Minas Tirith because we attacked with 2 or more creatures, or we don't attack with 2 or more creatures and we do this. It gains double strike until end of turn, which is nice because it means you usually win fights. Whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I was thinking about putting those Blinding Light-like effects, the 3 mana enchantments that exile non-land permanents under them, but I didn't feel like dealing with that. So this is the deck we got instead of me wanting to deal with that. So Reaper's Talisman, it's an equipment. When an equipped creature attacks, it gains Death Touch until end of turn, and then if it attacks alone, it drains the opponent for 2, the defending player for 2 life. They lose 2, you gain 2. Then we got Shadow Spear that I put here because I considered it a drain effect. Because of the trample plus the lifelink. And then if we ever needed to, we can remove hexproof and indestructible from our opponent's stuff. And let's see, what's this section called? We are in our 12 pieces of draw, look at that. Pay 1 life, draw a card, activate if only 3 or more cards left your graveyard this turn, or if you sacrifice the food. Oh, okay, we're not, okay, so never mind, I misread that. I thought it was only if 1. So that thing's going away. We're going in here. Let's go up to EDH rec because we're lazy. And it's going to want to give me this stuff. Ooh, this is actually might be good. Sacrifice this creature. Creatures you control to gain indestructible. And it's only mana value 2. This counterspell 1, because it costs 1 more. If you ever wanted to go that way. We are not playing enough equipment. This steals stuff. It steals from graveyards, which is generally okay, but don't feel like it. Blood Artist. I very specifically didn't want to go in that direction. So I think we're going to take this Selfless Spirit. We're going to take this $8 Selfless Spirit and put it in the deck. Hopefully it puts itself under protection. I'm just going to double check. It did. Yeah, this one I decided not to go in the order of vegetables, I guess. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless they pay X, where X is this thing's power. You know, this is something that gets removed that Squall can just bring back. This is a series of cheap things that we can sacrifice to other stuff or just throw under the bus. Oh no, not this one. This is the Archivist of Ogima. Whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain a life and draw a card. Yeah. Then we have the Helpful Hunter, an expensive one. Enters, you draw a card. Spirited Companion, enters, draw a card. This is the wall that when it enters, you draw a card. I only put in the 2 mana ones, not the 3 mana ones. Our friend Black Market Connections. Braids. This allows us to sacrifice those cheapo creatures we had, and then maybe draw a card, or maybe make our opponent sacrifice stuff as well. And then, of course, the Buster Sword to draw a card and get free spells, because Lionheart is an absolute garbage sword. They should have made that 2 damage on it from attack and not from entering the battlefield. And if you don't know what the Lionheart is, you don't have to worry about it. It's garbage. Then we have Morbid Opportunist. Whenever one or more other creatures die, draw a card once a turn. Phyrexian Arena again. Underworld Connections again. Brotherhood Regalia, because we want our commander to be unblockable when he's attacking, because then we get to pull 2 things. Whoops. Oh, good. It just put us to the next thing. This is just a block can't be blocked except by walls. Can't be blocked again. Non-basic land walk. And then skip ahead past the lands. We're gonna hit the last land because I don't know what the next section is. Oh, it's protection. So Lightning Greaves, Mirror Shield, the Selfless Spirit again that we can repeatedly sacrifice, theoretically, to give all of our stuff indestructible. The Swiftfoot Boots, Bastion Protector, which gives our commander +2/+2 and indestructible. Champion's Helm, Darksteel Plate, Ghostly Prison, that's propaganda but in white. Mithril Coat again, Whisper Silk Cloak, another unblockable. And Shroud, so we can't equip other stuff to it. Hammer of Nazan. I was pronouncing it fine until I started looking at it. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Charcoal Diamond, Cold Steel Heart, Felwar Stone, Lotho the Corrupt Sheriff. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose a life and create a treasure token. Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, Orzhov Signet, Talesman of Hierarchy, the Iron Crag, Thought Vessel, Luris of the Dream Den. Once per turn, like the companion stuff don't matter because it ain't a companion. Because our deck isn't exclusively mana value 2 or less. Just our commander alone nixed that. But once during each of your turns, you may cast a permanent spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard. So that's just additional that. Redemption Choir. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacked, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you can get a permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sun Titan, when it enters or attacks, you get a permanent with mana value 3 or less. Whoops. Ancient Brass Dragon, when it deals combat damage to a player, roll d20 and you get any number of target creature cards from total mana value X or less from graveyards onto the battlefield. Then our removal. Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, Bovine Intervention, that hits artifacts and creatures. D-Spark finally stayed in a deck. Dire Tactics, because our commander is a human. Disenchant, Heliod's Intervention, Infernal Grasp, Lion Sash. This gets stuff out of graveyards and makes itself or the creature it's attached to stronger. Our friend Parting Gust, Anguished Unmaking, Generous Gift, Memories of Nibelheim, aka Stroke of Midnight, Baleful Mastery, Settle the Wreckage, a pet card of mine, I think, because I don't think a whole lot of other people who play white actually use it, because they'd rather just Wrath of God. Utter End, and then now we have the tutors. Cloud, he gets double effect off of equipment triggers. And then he also tutors a piece of equipment to your hand. Same with Stoge for Mystic, but you can also cheat out equipment if something costs more than 1 and a white. And man, core ladies are attractive. Although I could have swore, but like because of the like all the fire makes her skin more blue than it is, because I could have swore their skin was more white. But I don't know. There's something about them that I'm like, yeah, that's pretty. So that's that deck. That deck went by really quick because there wasn't a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot to it. Basically, like, we're not sacrificing a whole lot in this deck, which is probably like bad. So Squall is more here to. It's funny. I could probably get rid of a bunch of this stuff just to put in more sack stuff. But Squall is more is like here just in case things go awry. Like, I'd rather just commander damage people out with Squall, I guess. So that's that one. Just gonna put him where he belongs. And then we have Orzhov Legends 2. I did Orzhov Legends for the Orzhov week. Oh, what day is today? Today is Thursday. Oh, this just some nonsense from a store. I'll have to check that later. Okay, so this deck is also fully built. So it has, I think, the exact same lands. Yep, it even has Emeria. I think I kept it in here because there's a possibility of having 10 or having 7 planes, but let's not bank on having that many planes. And then let's just go through it. So the reason why this guy, and this guy ranked getting almost the exact same deck that I've already built. The reason is that since I did the Orzhov Legends for the show, I can't really delete that, just in case someone hasn't seen my stuff and goes through the backlog and wants to click the links in the descriptions. I want that to still be there for them. But I do like this deck better, for the record. Whenever you so he's 1 white black for a 2/2 Spirit Warrior. Him being a spirit is mildly interesting. I don't know anything about him, even though I played Final Fantasy XIV. I never paid attention to the story, and I probably did not get to where he was. So whenever you cast a white spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary creature you control. They gain vigilance until end of turn. Whenever you cast a black spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary creature you control, and they get menace until end of turn. That's why I decided I wanted him at the head. So now we move on to Arvad the Curse. He has Death Touch and Lifelink, and then gives your other legendary creatures +2/+2. He's 5 total mana for a 3/3 Vampire Knight. Then we have Elish Normgrand Cenobite, 7 for a 4/7 Vigilance. Buffs your dudes by 2, and debuffs your opponents by 2. Mommy Norn messing with everybody. Gandalf the White, legendary spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. And then if a legendary permanent or artifact entering or leaving, so it's only entering or leaving, not cast, not attacking. But if it triggers twice, so that probably won't matter. He's here for the flash. Yoshimaru gets bigger whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield, and he is a goodest boy. Aerith, we get to put her in a deck even more legitimately than the last time. Did we get to put her in a deck before? No, she did not make it into last week's. Did she? I don't think she did. I don't think she made it into the Final Fantasy Precon side grade. Starting to warm up after a cool streak, so I'm hydrating. She's 2 and a white for a 2/2 human cleric with lifelink. Whenever you gain life, you put a counter on her. When she dies, each of your other legendary creatures gets X +1/+1 counters, which are equal to how many wherever on her. How nice of her. And according to the art, she has a whole basket of I think it's not Gilded Lotus. Lotus Bloom, because they use this flower in the art for the one that whichever one they put in the set. The one that taps for 3 of the same color. I think Gilded Lotus is the one that taps for all 5. Anyway, Colonel Autumn, this was the commander of the other Orzhov legend. Lifelink Exploit. Explorer is completely different. Other legendary creatures you control have Exploit. Whenever a creature you control exploits a creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That's very Orzhov. Then we have Elena, Turk Recruit. She recurs a non-assassin historic card from your graveyard to your hand, and then whenever you cast a historic spell, she gets bigger. Camball, Console of Allocation. Whenever your opponent casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life, you gain 2 life. Then we have Camball again at a different point of his life, Profiteering Mayor. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under an opponent's control, for each of them you get a tapped copy once a turn. That's fine. And then each opponent loses life and gains life whenever a token enters the battlefield under control. There's probably not a whole lot of tokens we have in our deck. This is just a funny piece of counterplay. I love being able to put this into decks and not have to worry about the heroic nonsense. 1 and white for a 2/2 human soldier with vigilance. If you target her with a spell, she gets a +1/+1 counter. That never going to happen. But you can tap her to remove a +1/+1 counter to draw a card. Yay. I'd clap, but I don't know how that would sound on my mic. Then, of course, we have the Buster Sword, because it's a great card. If I haven't said it in a while, equipped creature gets +3/+2, and then when it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Then you can cast a spell from your hand with mana value equal or less than the damage without paying its mana cost. That is just good value. Mangar the Diplomat, but in his Final Fantasy II cosplay. He's the 4 mana for a 2/4 human cleric with lifelink, and if an opponent attacks you with at least 2 creatures, you draw a card. You are a planeswalker, or when they cast their second spell, you get to draw a card. Heroes Podium. Your legendary creatures get buff for every other legendary creature, and then you get to look at your library for a legendary creature and put it into your hand. Don't know how often I'd actually use this if they put it in card draw, but for 5 minutes, it's a one-sided coat of arms for legendary super types. Heroes Heirloom. Legendary creature gets the additional trample and haste on top of the +2/+1. Oh, and then we're at land, so we jump to the very last land. Then go to protection. Lightning Greaves, Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, Darksteel Plate, Mithril Coat, Hammer of Nibir, and then for this deck, Avacyn Angel of Hope, who costs a whole heck of a lot, but is an 8/8 with Flying Vigilance and Indestructible, and gives other permanents you control indestructible. Then we got the Hero's Blade, which is basically not the Buster Sword, but it gets a free equip. Wrecking Ball Arm boosts them to 7/7 and can't be blocked by piddly creatures. Elxaphr's Sword of Eden. It costs X plus the cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents you control, which can mean this thing comes out for free. And then gives them +10/+0 vigilance. And then now we're on. Looks like we are on to our ramp section, which is slightly different. We have the Mox Amber, because we're going to have a lot of legendary. Since all of our creatures are legendary, the Mox Amber is actually good. Arcane Signet. Notice I didn't have the Soul Ring. That's actually an oversight. But I don't know what I'd take out for it instead, because it's colorless mana. Cold Steel Heart. Lotho again, because he's a legendary creature. Marble Diamond. I think I accidentally said Moss Diamond in the other deck that had in it. Mind Stone. Orzhov Signet, Talisman of Hierarchy, Iron Crag, Thought Vessel, Relic of Legends, adds a mana of any color, and then you can tap, and then it turns all your legendary creatures into mana dorks. And that's probably why this or the Mox Amber is why there isn't a Soul Ring in this deck. So I'm going to close this really quick. Though I guess I could take it like the Mind Stone for it, or the Cold Steel Heart. Let's take out the Cold Steel Heart. We can't, even though it's the waifu mana rock. The reason why it's getting taken out, so we don't have to choose a color. Oh, we don't even have the Felwar Stone in here. That's funny. So, and then we change this to the Final Fantasy XIV one. So now we go to Athreos, God of Passage. 1 white-black for a 5/4 indestructible god that can only be a creature if you have total devotion between black and white of 7. But whenever another creature you control dies, it goes back to your hand unless an opponent chooses to get lightning bolted. Interceptor is a 4/3 with menace. It says it's assassins you control have menace, which I think we've had one assassin. It was that Turk. And then whenever one or more legendary creature, whenever you attack with one or more legendary creatures, Interceptor can come back. Attack, tapped and attacking. So that's neat. Radadrabic of Urborg. Basically turns our legendary creatures into non-legendary zombies when they die. So that's helpful. Then Luisa. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, it goes back to your hand. If a creature opponent controls dies, it's exiled. So that's a nice way to keep our stuff going. Ravos the Soul Tender. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. What's funny is that I have that and that, but I don't have... I have Elish Norn, but I don't seem to have... I don't think I put Shieldred the Whispering one in here. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. But you have to have a legendary creature, or... Yeah, you have to have a legendary creature or planeswalker in play to cast it. Yomiji, who bars the way. Whenever a legendary permanent or other than Yojimmi bars the way is put into a graveyard from it returns to its... Oh, this affects everybody. Huh. I think I'll take this out for Mommy Shieldred. Because that's everybody, not just us. So let's go grab Shieldred. Is the Whispering one. We'll do the same style of printing. Oh, she's shushing because she wants us to whisper. Then removal, Path to Exile, Swords of Plowshares, Bovine Intervention, Despark again. Oh, 2 in a row. Disenchant, Heliod's Intervention, Infernal Grasp, Parting Gust, Anguished Unmaking, Generous Gift, Memories of Nibelheim, Baleful Mastery, Settle the Wreckage, Utter End. And then we don't have, what was it, Dire Tactics, because our commander wasn't a human. But we have Jadar to give us zombies to sacrifice to other stuff. Alinda the Dusk Rose, whenever a creature dies, she gets a +1/+1 counter. And then whenever she dies, you get a bunch of vampires. Felisa, Fang of Silverkrill. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, you get a bunch of Inklings. And then Cloud to search for a piece of equipment. Because that was our one tutor. Because all of the creatures are legendary. Every single one. Yeah, I think she's the only assassin in the entire deck. And she doesn't natively have Menace, so that's something. It'd be funny if I got through all of these decks, so take you down. This is going to be a very busy thumbnail. I realize. But that's fine. It's just going to be a bunch of small pictures. I'm fine with that. So, Sephiroth, but not the one anyone who's familiar with the cards in the set would expect. Oh, this one lost the card as well. That is a thing that happens. Deck history. Added removed cards, but of course that makes me want to check the deck that I just moved over here. Nope, you are at 100, 100, 100, 100. If you ever see a deck that only has 99 cards, just let me know. Mirror Style Master? I did legitimately remove that. Ah, that is not supposed to be gone. Windcrag Siege is supposed to be in. Add back. There we go. So this is the Boros Sephiroth, not the Mono Black nor the Dimir Sephiroth. At least I think those are the only. I think there's only 3 Sephiroths. So we have Sephiroth, the Fallen Hero, who is 3 red white for a 7/5. This is the only one that I liked. Well, no, I liked the Mono Black one, but I wasn't going to build Aristocrat Sephiroth. Let someone else do that. Genova Cells. Whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may put a cell counter on target creature. Until end of turn, each modified creature you control, which means they don't even have to have a cell counter. They just need to have a counter, be equipped, or be enchanted. But it's each modified creature you control has base power and toughness 7/5. Very interesting. And then the Reunion. You can pay 3, sacrifice a modified creature, and then you can return Sephiroth from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Which means you never have to pay commander tax, as long as someone doesn't remove your graveyard. So Blade Historian, attacking creatures have double strike. That doesn't mean a whole lot, other than you can do up to 14 damage per creature that is modified. Windcrag Seed, we wanted this in the deck because as this enchantment enters, choose Mardu or Jeskai. If it is Mardu, if a creature attacks causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Which, if we just pack out of here, which means we can put 2 cell counters on stuff. That's the whole point. And then Roaming Throne, that's the same thing. Both of these are just to get more cell counters on things. And then we have Micaeus, who comes in with X +1/+1 counters. And then you can either put more +1/+1 counters on him, or remove a +1/+1 counter to put +1/+1 counters on everything you control, which makes them modified. So that's so you only really need to put 2 into this, so he doesn't automatically go away if you use his ability. And then Thundering Raiju, when he attacks and he has haste, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control, other than Thundering Raiju. So that's a sweet little thing you can do. Lightning Army of 1 is just funny because she has First Strike, Trample, and Lifelink. And then when she deals combat damage to a player until your next turn, if any source controlled by anyone would deal damage to that player, or permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead. So she turns all of our 7s into 14s. That's the whole point there. Aki Battle Squad. Whenever one or more modified creatures control attack, you get a bonus combat. You only get 1, because it only triggers on the first combat. And I'm fairly certain that trigger doublers, that this ability triggers only once each turn, prevents trigger doublers from causing it to trigger multiple times. Walking Skyscraper just simply is cheaper for modified creatures you control, and it's hexproof as long as it's untapped, so it's just this big blocker. You never want to put a counter on it because it makes it worse, so be careful with that. And then next is our land, so we gotta just go past that. I did not accidentally put that one land in it. So of course we have the Shadow Spear because lifelink is funny. And of course, removing hexproof and indestructible from stuff can be handy. Envoy of the Ancestors gives our modified creatures lifelink. May as well. It has Outlast, but that doesn't matter. And now we're in our protection section. So we have Lightning Greaves, Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm again, Darksteel Plate again, Ghostly Prison again. Oh, I forgot to change that other Ghostly Prison because I do like this version better with this guy just being he's not in a good spot. Mithril Coat, Whisper Silk Cloak, Hammer. But now we have Iras, God of Victory, who gives our creatures Menace, which if they're 7/5s, that's great. And then prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. So that mitigates the whole, if 5 is somehow a bad amount of defense to have. Cauldron Complete, of course. And then now we're on our ramp. Soul Ring. We can trade that out for the Final Fantasy VII Soul Ring because he's Sephiroth. Same with this Arcane Signet. There we go with that. Boros Signet, Cold Steel Heart, Felwar Stone, Fire Diamond, Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, Talisman of Conviction, the Iron Crag, Thought Vessel, Solemn Simulacrum. Now we're on to our removal. Path to Exile, remembering Shattering Spree exists, because I think there are other decks today with red in it that I don't remember Shattering Spree exists. Swords Plowshares, Vandal Blast, Heliod's Intervention, Ian the Reckless. Whenever Ian the Reckless attacks, if he himself is modified, you may have him deal damage equal to his power to us and any target. So we definitely want him to have lifelink. Or for us to, well, if he's modified, so, or to have something else have had lifelink, and to have gained a lot of life. So that when we take the 7 damage, that it hurts someone else more. Lion Sash again to get permanent cards out of other people's graveyards. Mizium Mortars, remembering that exists to deal 4 damage to creatures we don't control. Parting Gust, Delayed Blast Fireball, dealing 5 damage to each opponent and the creatures they control. Generous Gift, Memories of Nibelheim, Settle the Wreckage, Argentum Armor, Meteor Golem, Ultima Weapon, Cityscape Leveler, and the Summon Bahamut. Then we go on to Goro Goro, Disciple of Ryusei. He can give our stuff haste, which is nice. And then we can create some dragons if we have an attacking modified creature. Jacked Rabbit creates creatures equal to his power when he attacks. Anim Pakal creates gnomes equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on her, so it's not tied to her power, but we do have other things putting +1/+1 counters on things. Not a lot, but you know, she still becomes modified, so that doesn't bother me at all. And then the Hero of Light from Final Fantasy III as the Resplendent Cathar, that whenever you attack for each opponent, you create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking them. I believe what you can do is that you can order your triggers for this to happen first, and then have Sephiroth turn them into 7/5s. Krinko makes goblins based on his power when he attacks. But I used Makiri the Lucky Grot from the Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Oh no, this is 40k. It's still 40k because the Grats are orcs. Varchild gives our opponents tokens, but when Varchild leaves the battlefield, we get all of those survivors. This was just funny to me, if I'm being honest. Because you can modify your tokens and sacrifice those to get Sephiroth back. Marielle creates, whenever you attack, she creates X soldiers equal to the number of soldiers you control. And we have at least one other soldier. The Ancient Gold Dragon, which will make a bunch of fairy dragons. Then we can summon Knights of the Round. And then, of course, we have Sid. I mean, not Sid, jeez. Cloud, who will search up a piece of equipment and is a soldier. And Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. We only had to... Did I have to switch out a card in this deck? I don't think I did. I like this deck. It's cool. We're at $130, so we can do more. Next week I'll probably be doing this again just to finish it out. Eventually we'll get to a deck that I hadn't built ahead of time. And that one I'll definitely... actually, I know exactly... What's funny is that this was supposed to go by color, but I noticed it is no longer going by color. In fact, I have no idea what order it was in. Because Leveler Siblings is one I know I didn't do. But let's do this one really quick. Just because it goes with Sephiroth. And it changed its order again. There we go. It goes with Sephiroth because they're both Boros. So, you can have this. I'm going to double check my lands really quick. Nope, okay. So we start with Zidane, who does something that I normally don't like to have in decks. When he enters, you gain control of a thing, but you give it back at the end of turn. And untap, gains lifelink and haste. So, like I said, I don't like stealing stuff, but it's a temporary steal, and so all I have to do is give it back at the end of the turn, and it's fine. Or at least have the intent to give it back at the end of the turn. Like, don't sacrifice it, don't make bad attacks with it. Whenever an opponent gains control of a permanent from you, create a treasure token. And you might have saw that this deck is Bracket 1. It is Bracket 1 for a reason. And we're about to discover it. Goblin Festival. Pay 2. Goblin Festival deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Flip a coin. If you lose the flip, choose one of your opponents. They gain control of Goblin Festival, and you get a treasure token if you have Zidane out. Jinxed Idol. During your upkeep, Jinxed Idol deals 2 damage to you. Sacrifice a creature. Target opponent gains control of Jinxed Idol. It says permanently, but that's because this is an old card. Jinxed Ring. Whenever any card is put into your graveyard from play, Jinxed Ring deals 1 damage to you. Sacrifice a creature. Target opponent gains control of Jinxed Ring. Jinxed Choker. At the beginning of your turn, target opponent gains control of Jinxed Choker and puts a charge counter on it. What's funny about stuff like this is that they don't want to give it back to you because they don't want you to make more treasure tokens for giving it away again. Theoretically. At the beginning of your upkeep, Jinxed Choker deals damage to you equal to the number of charge counters on it. And then you can pay 3 to put a charge counter on it or remove one from it. Witch Hunt. Players can't gain life. At the beginning of your upkeep, Witch Hunt deals 4 damage to you. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent chosen at random gains control of Witch Hunt. So you don't even get hit by these ones that do it in the upkeep first, because you're hopefully getting rid of it. And 2 of these get rid of themselves automatically. Jolly Balloon Man, that just lets us create a 1/1 copy of a creature we control. That's it's sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. That's to give us things we can sacrifice or things we can give away without actually giving anything away. That's what Splinter Twin does as well. That's what Kiki Jiki does. Now our Goblin Cassettes. Whenever it blocks or becomes blocked, target opponent gains control of it. And then it removes goblins from combat, which is cool because the block still happened. It just left. It's also a Savannah Lion. Drooling Ogre. Whenever a player casts an artifact spell, they gain control of Drooling Ogre. That's hilarious. And it's a 3/3 for 2. Loxodon Peacekeeper. At the beginning of your upkeep, the player with the lowest life gains control of Loxodon Peacekeeper. If there's a tie, you choose them. You choose the one. Rogue Sky Captain is an old card with a lot of text. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a wage counter on Rogue Sky Captain. During your upkeep, you can pay 2 for each wage counter on Rogue Sky Captain. Or remove all wage counters from Rogue Sky Captain and target opponent gains control of Rogue Sky Captain. It's a 3/4 flying for 3 that you may or may not ever get to attack with, depending on if you ever want to pay 2. Sokenzan Renegade. It has Bushido 1. So when it blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, if a player has more cards in hand than any other, they gain control. They gain control of this thing. Thoughtbound Primok. At the beginning of your upkeep, if a player controls more wizards than any other player, they gain control of this. I don't even think I have wizards in this deck. I'm gonna be quite honest. This thing just goes away and never comes back. Emberwild Djinn. During each player's upkeep, they can pay 2 red or 2 life. Oh, and then they gain control of it. So this isn't even. I thought that you'd lose control of this, but that's fine. It's a 5/4 for 4, so maybe someone does want to steal it, so I don't get to attack with it. And I think, yeah, yeah, and it'll still have summoning. It'll still have summoning sickness, I guess, because it won't have been under your control since the beginning of your turn. Fickle of Efreet. If it attacks or blocks, you flip a coin at end of combat. If you lose, an opponent gains control of Fickle of Efreet. Chaos Lord. It's a 7/7 for 7 with first strike. It can attack when it comes into play on a side, but not the turn it was summoned from hand, or from the graveyard or wherever. So when it changes sides, it has haste. Effective haste. Haste for attacking. But when it is cast or put into play from outside of the battlefield, it does not have any sort of haste. During your upkeep, count the number of permanents. If the number of permanents is even, target opponent gains control of Chaos Lord. Contested Game Ball. Whenever you're dealt combat damage, the attacking player gains control of Contested Game Ball and taps it. And then you can pay 2 and tap, draw a card, and put a point counter on it. And then if it has 5 or more, you sacrifice it and create a treasure token. Whoops. Humble Defender. You tap it to draw 2 cards, and then opponent gains control of it. It's activated as a sorcery. And then you can tap this. Target opponent gains control of Yes Man, Personal Securitron. When they do, you draw 2 cards and put a quest counter on Yes Man. Activate only during your turn. And then Wild Card. When Yes Man leaves the battlefield, its owner creates a tapped 1/1 white soldier creature token for each quest counter on it. Avarice Amulet. Equipped creature has +2/+0, and at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card. When equipped creature dies, target opponent gains control of the Avarice Amulet. Chandra Spark Hunter. This is basically for the +2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to one target vehicle control until end of turn it becomes a vehicle. That's the, and then her 0 creates a vehicle that she basically crews. And then its +2 is sacrifice an artifact or discard a card if you do draw a card. That's why she's in the deck. And then, of course, if we ever get to the +7, whenever we create a treasure card, we get to lightning bolt stuff. Karn the Betrayer. It attacks or blocks each combat if able. When you lose control of Karn the Betrayer, you draw 2 cards. If damage will be dealt to Karn the Betrayer, prevent that damage, and opponent of your choice gains control of it. Lexios. It attacks each combat if able and can't be sacrificed, and can't attack its owner. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player gains control of Lexios. So I only really get it when I give it away. I only get my treasure token when I give it away. And then it gets +1/+1 counter and gains haste. Slicer, Hired Muscle, double strike haste. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of Slicer. So that's a great way to get treasures on every opponent's turn. If you do, you untap Slicer, goad it, and it can't be sacrificed. If you don't, you convert it, which just gives us this 3/2 first strike haste thing. So if we don't give it, we just have this 3/2 first strike haste guy. And if we do give it, they get this 3/4 double strike haste guy. Oh, no more. We are on our land, so let's go down here. Ghostly Prison, of course. Oh, that reminds me. I'm just going to go to this other one. Who did not change their Ghostly Prison? Well, that's interesting. Orzhov 2 didn't even get one. So was it our good friend Squall? Oh, it was our good friend Squall. Just doing that really quick. There we go. Back over here. Assault Suit. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has haste, can't attack you or a planeswalker you control, and can't be sacrificed. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of equipped creature until end of turn if you do untap it. So that's, you know, build your own, that one guy. Oh, build your own Slicer, because it's each opponent's upkeep. Because you get it back. Crown of Doom. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Target player other than Crown of Doom's owner gains control of it. So, oh, whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, okay. So whoever owns it gets that. I mean, whoever controls it gets that. And then I pass it, I give it away once, and then it can never come back to me. And then we go through our ramp, Soul Ring, Arc Sig. Oh yeah, Zidane is from FF9, so we're just using the 14s. Boros Signet, Buck Nard's Everfull Purse. Pay 1 tap, roll a d4, and create that many treasure tokens, and then you give it to the player on your right. Hylian Rope. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tab, then shuffle. The player to your right gains control of the rope. Or you can draw a card, and the player to your right gains control of the rope. Talisman of Conviction. Treasure Map. The other side, we sacrifice treasures to draw a card. Discerning Financier, or Financier, if we want to make fun of the French language. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure token. And then you can pay 2 and a white to choose another player. That player gains control of target treasure you control, and then you draw a card. Something to do with our treasures. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It's down here in ramp, even though what we really like is creating copies of stuff to give away. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you get a treasure token once a turn, and then you can sacrifice a treasure just to goad something. That's just something to do with treasures. Professional Facebreaker. Whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to a player, you get a treasure, but then you can also sacrifice a treasure to impulsive draw. Solemn. Coveted Jewel costs 6, but when it enters, you draw 3 cards, and then you can tap it to add 3 mana of any one color. And then whenever one or more creatures an opponent control attack you and aren't blocked, they draw 3 cards and gain control of this artifact, and you untap it. So I still feel this has a lot of goofy cards that make it bracket 1, but it has a lot of fun stuff in it that I think people will enjoy it. Because I don't have any of the cards besides Zidane himself that say gain control of a thing until end of turn. I just have here's my stuff, you can have it. Path to Exile, Swords of Plowshares, Vandal Blast. Custody Battle. Okay, enchanted creature has at the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent gains control of this creature unless you sacrifice a land. Heliod's Intervention, Mizium Mortars, Parting Gust, Delayed Last Fireball, Generous Gift, Memories of Nibelheim, Settle the Wreckage, Harmless Offering. Oh, this is in a section called The Dream. Because target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. Then 9 lives, hexproof. If a source would deal damage to you, prevent that damage and put an incarnation counter on 9 lives. When there are 9 or more counters on 9 lives, exile it. When 9 lives leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. So just to hit someone with that would be funny. Then we have Stiltskin? Huh. Rumpelstiltskin is a Moogle. Moogle Merchant. It's a 1/2 for 1 with lifelink. It's a Moogle. You can pay 2 and tap. Target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, you draw a card. That's to give away like our temporary tokens that we made with all of our copiers. Then we have Bizarre Trader, which target player gains control of target artifact, creature, or land you control. That's the same thing, but with no upside. Academy Manufacturer just gives us more tokens when we get our treasures, so we can have food and clues to draw cards or gain life, or give them away, or sacrifice them, or whatever. Daring Piracy. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 red pirate creature token with menace and haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. That is just to create a creature that we can give away. Urbrass Forge creates progressively bigger creatures that go away at the end of the turn. Varchild again, because I just like this character. A Crone Horse, we give it to someone else, but we get a treasure token from it because it comes into play first. And then us and 2 of our opponents will get a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Cadric's Soul Kindler. The legend rule doesn't apply to tokens you control. Whenever another non-token legendary permanent enters the battlefield under control, you may pay 1. If you do, create a copy that goes away at the end of turn. We have a couple of legends, but if we get this out before Zidane, we can pay an extra and get 2 Zidanes. And then, depending on what else we have set up, we can give away one of those Zidanes. And that's Zidane. Put that over here. Whoops, nope. Go in there. There we go. That's two more Boros decks that weren't all about equipment, but I still thought were funny and good. Although one of them was still about modified creatures. Yeah, that is funny how I had 2 of my monocolor decks, and then I didn't notice that it went right into dual color without doing these other other 3. So we'll try to get through these. This, whoops, I did not want to do that. I wanted to stay back here. We'll open up Battle of the Big Bridge, Overzealous, and Tifa Landfall, and those will be the last ones we do today. We might go over a bit. And then next week, I think the only one that needs to be built is Leveler Siblings, because I think all of these exist. I really probably should have put these two this one, because they're relevant to last week, but, well, these 3 are relevant to last week. But we'll get to them when we get to them. Battle at the Big Bridge. I'm not going to worry about cosmetics in this one. So we have, and for our lands, we have 33 mountains, because I did not have enough red things that I wanted to put into this deck. I realized I could have put it like Adventurers Fair and stuff like that, but I think because I have Valakut that says if you have at least 5 other mountains, this does 3 damage to target creature or player, which I think got errated into any target. Yep, any target. So we're just changing that just for the clarified rules. Then Nykthos, which is Devotion. Castle Emvrith, which is just a cheap little combat. Well, it's an expensive combat trick, but it's on a land. Arena of Glory that we can exert for haste. Then we're just going to go down the line. Gilgamesh is a 6 mana for a 6/6 that when he enters or attacks, you look at the top 6 cards of your library and put any number of equipment cards from among them onto the battlefield. How many pieces of equipment do we have? Masterwork Ingenuity. Oh, that does count as equipment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. We have 21 pieces of equipment. So that's something like a 1 in 5 chance of hitting it. So you put all equipment cards from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. When you put 1 or more equipment on the battlefield this way, you can attach them to a samurai you control. And hey, look, he's a samurai. Barrett Wallace, Human Rebel. When he attacks, deal damage that equals the number of creatures you control to defending player. Masterwork of... Really? Was he the only person in his section? Yes, he was. Look at that. Masterwork of Ingenuity comes into play as a copy of another enchantment or another equipment you have. Furion temporarily copies your equipment and makes that copy cheaper to equip. And then equip creatures you control have haste. So it lets you use that temporary copy until you have the mana to actually equip the real copy, so that's neat. Gogo copies another creature you control when he attacks, and that gives both of them +2/+0 and haste until end of turn. Helm of the Host makes additional creatures, except they're not legendary if the original is legendary. Roaming Throne will double our commanders and any other samurais or humans, depending on what we pick. I'd probably pick human because Barrett and Furion are humans. To double their triggered abilities. Reinforced Ronin is a human samurai. He's just a cheap little 2/2 with haste that we can get out early just to be annoying. And then later he's a clue, basically. Aki Ronin, samurai or warrior attacks alone. You discard a card to draw a card, optionally. and our commander is a samurai. Tome of Legends. This allows us to draw cards as long as our commander is either entering the battlefield or attacking. Buster Sword. Draw a card, free spell. Item Shopkeeper. Attacking equipped creatures have menace. Well, one of them. Non-basic land walk. It makes our commander one better, and then can't be chump blocked so much. This is the extra combat for modified. Oh, this is our land, so we skip to the end of lands. Shadow Spear for the trample and lifelink, and off the off chance we need to make things not hexproof or indestructible. Protection to everything but red. Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Thran Power Suit, which is +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it, and has Ward 2. Champion's Helm, Dark Steel Plate, Mithril Coat, Hammer of Nazan, Genji Glove for another extra combat. And notice they both say first combat, so I don't think if both this and that Aki squad give you 2 extra combats, I ain't smart enough. Call to complete. Colossus Hammer, because you can equip it for free theoretically. Upriser Renegade just gets bigger for other modified creatures you control. And he also is rocking a Pompadour and sunglasses, if I'm not mistaken. So that guy's cool. Nettle Cyst, Living Weapon, that the equipment gives +1/+1 for other artifacts and enchantments you control. Ember Cleave, this thing, I don't know if this thing ever got banned in Standard, but it definitely should have. It costs 1 less to attack for each attacking creature you control, and then when it enters the battlefield, it auto-equips itself, and then it gives +1/+1 in Double Strike and Trample. And then, of course, the Sword of Eden for that +10 in Vigilance. Freya is a mana dork specifically for equipment. So it can cast equipment or equip equipment, but also she has flying on your turn, just in case that's ever important. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Fire Diamond, Mind Stone. Raoban, Bull of Ala Migo. He has Ward, pay life equal to his power, so it's Ward 2 unless he's equipped. And then whenever he attacks, it taps up to equipment you control to target attacking creature. So he gives free equips, that's why he's in the ramp section. Ruby Medallion, Sword of the Animus, because we're playing monocolor. Thought Vessel, Bitterthorn, again, because we're in monocolor. Foundry Inspector, because we have a lot of artifacts in this deck. Peerless Samurai, whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, the next spell you cast this turn is 1 less. Professional Facebreaker for those treasure tokens and a way to spend them. Reaver Cleaver, where you get treasure tokens equal to the combat damage this thing does to a player or a planeswalker. And it has Trample to make sure that damage gets through. Solemn Simulacrum, the Fire Crystal. That is a very expensive way to make copies of creatures, but, whatever. Ancient Copper Dragon to make more treasures, and it's also just a big flying creature. Heiko Yamazaki to cast artifacts from our graveyards when a samurai or warrior attacks alone. Basilisk Collar for Death Touch and Lifelink. Shattering Spree because we remembered it exists. Vandal Blast. Wild Magic Surge because in mono red we don't have a whole lot of removal. So this destroys a permanent, and they get a permanent that shares a type from their deck. Chaos Warp, any permanent, and then they reveal top. If it's permanent, it goes into play. Guthrie White's History. This is like a combination of the previous two, but it's for each player. So you get non-enchantment, non-land. It shuffles them in their library. and then they get a free non-land card into play. Well, they get to cast it without paying its mana cost. Transforming Flourish has Demonstrate. Destroy target artifact or creature you don't control. If that permanent is destroyed this way, its controller exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card, and then they cast it without paying its mana cost. And then you can Demonstrate so you can have someone copy it so you can do it again. Argentum Armor destroys on attacks. Meteor Golem, Scour from Existence. Exile target permanent for 7. You probably... I don't put this in a lot of decks, but I'm like, I'll put it in this one. Ultimate Weapon, Summon Bahamut again. Goro Goro, Disciple of Ryusei. Oh yeah, no, duh. This is the one that gives us haste or creates dragons if we have attacking modified creatures. Goto Bandit Warrior, aka Gilgamesh Weapon Collector. When Gilgamesh enters, you may search your library for an equipment card, put into the battlefield, then shuffle. Whenever this specific version of Gilgamesh attacks for the first time each combat, untap it and all samurai you control to get another battle phase. He himself is a barbarian. We do have a few samurais. So that is a thing to do. So we get rid of that. And we are going to go over the 2-hour mark, which we already have, because I want to clear out all of the mono colors and kind of make up for my own mistake. But I am going to put that there. So now we're on Overzealous, which is a deck that I really like. The same lands. Although I have Terrain Generator in this one. Did I have Terrain Generator in the other one? Where are you, lands? Where did you end up? You're up here. Oh, I put Castle Embreth in the other one. Because Castle Embreth is not in here, is it? No. Okay. So, Terrain Generator is the one that puts a basic land into play from your hand. So, we have Zell Dincht from Final Fantasy VIII. You may pay additional land on each of your turns. That's neat. Zell Dincht gets +1/+0 for each land you control. That's neat. At the beginning of your end step, return a land you control to your owner's hand. That is neat, but not helpful. And we have the Genji Glove for multiple attacks. Sardian Cliff Stomper, as long as it's your turn, his power is equal to the number of mountains you control. When Urza betrayed the Sardian dwarves, they called upon some minotaurs for help. Well, we always said Urza's a jerk. Endless Atlas to draw cards equal to the number of lands we control, or not equal to the number of lands we control, as long as we have 3 lands with the same name. Call of the Mountain Chocobo. We search our library for a mountain card and put it into our hand, and then we get the Landfall Bird. Koth, Fire of Resistance. +2s that we search our library for a basic mountain, reveal it, and put it into our hand. Yay. To make sure we always have 2 lands in our hand, because that's important. And then if we have a glut of lands, we can instead -3 to deal damage equal to the number of mountains we control to a creature. And then in Magical Christmas Land, we get an emblem that says whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under our control, we Lightning Bolt +1 any target. Bonehorde Dracosaur, flying first strike. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If it's a land, you get a 3/1 dinosaur. And if it's a non-land, you get a treasure. So what's nice about this is that normally, again, I don't like milling myself, which is what this does. But if we get the dreaded 2 lands, Zell at least lets us play them both. Archetype of Aggression gives all of our stuff trample, which is good, and removes trample from our opponents. And we'll just blitz through the lands. Exert for haste, mountain, different mountain, third mountain, Nykthos, Terrain Generator, Valakut. Akum Battle Hellhound. It gets +2/+2 on landfall, and it starts at a 0/1. Reckless Pyro Surfer. When a land enters the battlefield, it gets Battle Cry until end of turn, and then each instant of Battle Cry will trigger separately. So when this creature attacks, if it has the Battle Cry, other attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. So this thing will stay at a 2/2, but it can make your other attackers stronger. Pings each opponent on a landfall, and it has reach. Tunneling Geopede pings your opponents on landfall. Spitfire Lavagak pings each of your opponents on landfall. We didn't have a whole lot of landfall and landfall stuff on mono red, just letting you know that. Nesting Dragon. On landfall, you get a dragon egg that when it dies, you get a 2/2 dragon with fire breathing. Pay a red to get +1/+0 until end of turn. Akum Hellkite. Landfall. It deals 1 damage to any target, but if it was a mountain, it's 2 damage to that target. And then Morag, Fury of Akum. You get bonus combats on your landfalls. Though the way this thing works is that you want to take your first combat first, play a land, combat, play a land, combat. That just makes things a lot easier. Basilisk Collar because we want Death Touch and Lifelink. Shadow Spear because we want Lifelink and Trample, and to sometimes remove Hexproof and Indestructible. Commander's Plate with protection from everything but red. Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, Darksteel Plate, Mithril Coat, Hammer of Nazan, Cauldron Complete. Blackblade Reforge, +1/+1 for each land you control. This is the deck to put it in. Claws of Valakut. Enchanted creature has +1/+0 for each mountain you control and has first strike. Then we have our Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Fire Diamond, Mind Stone, Poo Poo UFO, which is a terrain generator, and then a thing that don't matter because we don't have any towns in this deck, but it's just basically terrain generator again. Red spells cost 1 less to cast. Sword of the Animus, Thought Vessel, Walking Atlas, that's the Poo Poo generator again. Bitterthorn, Koth of the Hammer. Untap a mountain, it becomes a 4/4 red until end of turn, still a land, but you can tap it for mana still. Or you can -2 to add red for each mountain you control if you need a lot of mana. Or if you hit the ultimate, you can tap your mountains for damage. Scampering Surveyor. It's basic land or cave, put it on the battlefield tapped. Like, this is a garbage card if we were in green, but this is a great card because we're in red, because it's another land. Solemn. The Fire Crystal again. The Regalia. When it attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. That goes in the battlefield, and the rest in the bottom of your library in random order. There and back again, just because I like it. Also, the second one gets a land. The first one prevents something from blocking, and you get a Ream Tinct, which that part won't matter. I mean, it'll give something Skulk, but whatever. Then you get a mountain from your deck onto the battlefield, and then you get Smoke, which can maybe make you 14 treasures. Ancient Copper Dragon for more treasures. I just like those cards. Shattering Spree, Vandal Blast. Spitting Earth, which deals damage to a creature equal to the number of mountains you control. Wild Magic Search again, Chaos Warp again, Guff rewrites history. Seismic Strike, which is technically a worse Spitting Earth, but Spitting Earth is a sorcery, so we're paying 1 more for Seismic Strike to be an instant. Transform and Flourish again. Ben Aki Hermit. It deals damage to target attacking creature equal to the mountains you control. So it's reusable, but someone has to be attacking you. Argentum Armor again. Jaws of Stone Deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players, where X is the number of mountains you control as you cast the spell. Meteor Golem. Scour from existence again. Spawn of Thraxes. It enters the battlefield, does damage to target creature or player equal to the number of mountains you control. There we go. That hits players at least. Ultima Weapon. Cityscape Leveler. Summon Bahamut. Toggo gives us these rocks on landfall, which is silly, but why not? I didn't call this... Like, it's tempting to call this Bracket 1 because it's mono red landfall, but then you're like, oh wait, no, this actually has some teeth on it. Anyway. Moving this over here. So the last deck of the day, we won't be going too far over because I was able to get through these quickly. This is a mono green BS that cost $1,000 because of special printings. Oh, did she? Wait, hold on. There's a thing that I don't know if I put in this deck. That I'm surprised isn't in this deck. And if it's not in this deck, it's going in this deck because that is a complete... Well, we'll figure it out by the time we're done looking at it. So, how many creatures are in this deck? 20? Not that many. Whoops. Let's go back to categories. Okay, so we have our good friend Tifa Lockhart, looking pretty. With honestly, I really like her gear, like the arm warmers and the gloves. Like if I was gonna like not wear a full shirt with sleeves, which actually, if you're gonna be punching stuff, feels like a good idea, but you still want to kind of want to have like padding and stuff on your elbows and hands. Arm warmers is a good way to go, I think. Anyway, she's 2 mana for a 1/2 human monk with trample. And landfall, whenever a land you control enters, double Tifa's Lockhart's power until end of turn. That can be brutal. That can mess with people, especially with that trample nonsense. And then we just start being rude. Equipped creature has base power 10/10. And then its equip cost is 10, but it's lowered by the power of the creature it targets. So we don't get the base power 10/10. Oh, then. So basically, it redoes the math. So basically, we drop a bunch of lands, then we equip this, and then her base power is 10, and her base power is 10 instead of base power 1. So that's like an instant buff because I think it'll retroactively does the math. Wrecking Ball arm is that, but 3 less. But it also prevents you from being super chump blocked. A tier and pre-win, it's the same thing, but it's your life total, which is utter gross. This is the same thing, but 9/9 and gives you flying and first strike and haste in addition to the trample. And when it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So, like, this is a finisher. And now we have our get extra land drops. Although I think I put this all into card draw. Yeah, I put this into card draw because it's getting them off the top of your deck. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands from the top of your library at any time. And then, as long as you have 3 or more creatures with different powers, you can cast creature spells from the top of your library. We don't have that many creatures. It's only 20 out of 100. Traveling Jacopo does that, but also allows birds. And then land, but it also doubles the trigger of lands and birds entering the battlefield, which the bird part super doesn't matter, but the land part does super matter. Oracle of Moldaya, again, it's an additional land on your turn. Your opponents get to see the top card of your library, but you play lands from the top. Great Henge is X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Then it taps for 2 green and you gain 2 life. And then when non-token creatures enter, you draw a card and they get a +1/+1 counter on it. Rope gives +1/+0, reach, and then can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So, you only get to block with 1 thing, it better be good. Brotherhood Regalia is even better because can't be blocked. Prowler's Helm can't be blocked except by walls. Psychic Paper can't be blocked. Genji Glove, extra attacks, because why not? This is why I like doing this series. Just like when I was like, oh, I could put Phyrexian Dreadnought, I think it was, the 1 mana 12/12 that sacrifices itself if you don't sacrifice 12 power worth of creatures. We get to find old cards that do silly things. Equipped creature has first strike and tap. Unattach this thing, and it deals damage equal to its power to target player. You drop your lands and you don't even need to attack. Jumbo Cactar, because if we're going to be silly, we're going to be silly. The goal is, can we make Tifa stronger than Jumbo Cactar? Probably not. Don't care. Then we're on our lands. Boseiju, just in case we need to remove an artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land. Castle Garenbrig, because it's a tiny piece of ramp. Evolving Wilds for more land drops. Fable Passage for more land drops. The forests from this deck. 6, 6, and 6 for some reason. How many lands are in this deck? I'm sorry. There are only 25 lands in this deck. Okay, so I made a serious mistake. Oh. Huh. 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. Aha! Okay. And then something fell out of the deck. So we're putting the Prismatic Vista back in. And we're putting that back in. Okay, yeah, now I see what happened. I had 12 snow-covered forests. I never would have noticed. So anyway, so we have our 3 brands of forest. Because it's Final Fantasy. Very nice. Then we have Myriad Landscape to get 2 more basic lands into the battlefield. Nykthos to tap for Devotion. Prismatic Vista to get another land drop. Snow-covered Forest because, you know, we're going to run the search for snow land. Then Terramorphic Expanse. Saz Jacobo because it's not exactly Tifa, but it's hilarious to get early. Whenever land you control enters, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and it starts very small. It is funny how it's this and the Akum Hellhound are very similar, but this is long-term better. Bristly Bill, because it doubles +1/+1 counters, but also gets this. It's just, that's the section we're in, because we have the Scythecat Cub. That does, that puts a +1/+1 counter, but then if it does it a second time, it doubles them. So that just to increase Tifa or someone else's base power. Vine Lasher Kudzu does it, gives it to itself. Oh, now we're on to... Is this the ramp section? Oh no, that's the landfall section. You know what? We're putting the Corsair of Crufix into the draw section, just to make that section look better. Corsair of Crucifix plays top card of your library reveal, play lands from the top, and then when a land enters, you gain a life. That part doesn't really matter. Mossborn Hydra, let's go back in here. It enters with a +1/+1 counter, and then on landfall you double, and it has trample. Territorial Scythe Cat is +1/+1 trample on its +1/+1 counter on itself, and it has trample. Tireless Provisioner gives us a food or a treasure. Tireless Tracker gives us a clue, and then this thing gets bigger when we use our clues. And then of course Shadow Spear for the trample and the lifelink, more for the lifelink, and also to remove hexproof and indestructible from stuff. Commander's Plate will give protection to everything but green. Legolas's Quick Reflexes. It has Split Second, which means it really limits the number of things you can do while it's on the stack. They can't cast spells, activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. There are things you can do. I think triggered abilities still trigger. Like, I'd have to go in a deep dive of the rules that I don't feel like doing. And then you can tap mana to do stuff. I guess. I don't know what that stuff would be. Untap target creature. Until end of turn, it gains hexproof for each, and whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to powered up to one target creature. So it's a fight spell. It's a 1-mana fight spell. Or bite. Or punch. Depending on what you want to think, say, Tifa is doing. Like, cause I call them bite spells because a lot of them are bite. But they are really just punch spells. Then we have Lightning Greaves. We are in the protection section, but I would put Legolas's Quick Reflexes in my removal section, which we will get down to and I'll probably mention again. So anyway, Commander's Plate, Lightning Greaves, Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, Mithril Coat. Okay, it's funny that I did that one. I guess I just, for this one, I didn't like the other frame. Whisper Silk Cloak, because, yeah, Cauldron Complete. Oh, I didn't have an evasion section. That's interesting, right? Or did I have an evasion section? No, I had an evasion section. I'm going to put Whisper Silk Cloak over here, because that's the part that matters most. And then after Cauldron Complete is this silly dork. 8 mana for a 8/20. Vigilance, Ward 3. Damage isn't removed from this creature during cleanup steps. All damage that we dealt to you and other permanents you control is dealt to this creature instead. When this creature dies, exile it and create 10 tap treasure tokens. This thing is silly, but I like it. It is... If none of your other creatures take any damage, this is an extra 20 life. Anyway, Tifa's Limit Break. I mean, this isn't super great of a card. But it's Tifa's Limit Break, so it goes in. And it's tiered, which means its power depends on how much you feel like paying into it. So it starts at a green for +2/+2 until end of turn. Then green and 2 generic is double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. And then for 6 green, you triple their power and toughness. So that's definitely like finisher territory. Then we have Black Blade Reforged because we want to have a lot of lands in play. Oh, okay, that section is called Pump. Okay. I was just wondering. And to the north, to find one of our snowlands. Nature's Lore, to find a forest. Newfound Adventure to find not a forest. Boy, that was dumb to put that in this deck. There we go. Take that out. Sometimes you do things on reflex. Then we have our Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, Sakura Tribe Elder, which is a spell version of, or which is a creature version of Rampant Growth, really. Sword of the Animus, 3 visits. Bitter Thorn, Cultivate, Flare of Cultivation, which is Cultivate again, but with a different mana cost. And you can also sacrifice a non-token green creature to cast it instead. Kodama's Reach, which is exactly the same as Cultivate. Nissa's Pilgrimage, which grabs 2 basic forest cards and put them in the battlefield. But if you have 2 or more instant sorcery cards in your graveyard, you get a 3rd one instead of 2. Then Overlord of the Hauntwoods, because when it enters or attacks, it creates lands. And then we have the Basilisk Collar, then Legolas, of course. This is good old Pest Infestation. And then I guess I do got to start going here, because these are my bites, or fights, or punches. Ram Through. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control, and then if it has trample, excess damage is dealt to its controller. Spinning Wheel Kick. It deals damage equal to its power to up to X target creatures and or planeswalkers. Beast Within. Wind Swift Slice. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Then you create a number of elves equal to the excess damage. That's just funny. Clay Golem. Oh, this was just a weird thing that I saw that I decided to put into this deck. So it's a 4 mana 4/4, but then you can pay 6 and roll a d8 to put that many +1/+1 counters on this once. And then when it becomes monstrous, you destroy a permanent. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, we have a spot. Meteor Golem, Ultima Weapon, Cityscape Leveler, Summon Bahamut. Do I not have Argentum Armor in here? Oh, let's put Argentum Armor in here then, because I took out that other thing that was silly. Argentum. And then... there we go. And then that was the Tifa Landfall silly deck. How quickly can she punch out our opponents? Don't know, don't care. That was fun. Oh, the thing that I did not put in here, that I was going to put in here until I decided I wanted Argentum Armor instead, apparently, was Ashaya Soul of the Wild. But we only have 20 creatures, so I guess that's why I'm like, eh. Because, like, we could take out the Cactar, we could take out the Adamantoise, he's not necessary. The mana he provides certainly isn't necessary. But it's a Final Fantasy card. Although, wow, the Blackblade Reforged and having these other creatures. Yeah, no, I'm not taking anything out for Shaya. In fact, Shaya, as you might know, is in a deck with Nissa that I did on the mono green one. So, do this. Do this. Some kind of car. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Huh, 9. That's not an even number, but it's a square number, so I'm happy with that. So next week we're going to go through Secret Sid, Golbez, VV, New Mutants, not from Marvel, starting from Genova, two Cloud decks, a Titus deck, a 5-color Terra deck, and then a Towns deck that, like, people who actually play the Magic the Gathering don't need to see this one. And then we'll build the Levelar siblings. That's all going to be next week. See you then.